how to start business in Sweden. We have two speakers today from enterprise agency Harry Goldman and Imran Ahmed, chairman of Pakistan Swedish Business Council. Welcome up.
Very warm welcome to all Pakistani who have been traveling far away. Very warm welcome to Sweden. I'm really glad that this day has started with a rain from the beginning, but now the weather is good. So myself, my name is Imran Ahmed, and I've been living here since 32 years back. And once upon a time, I met Harry Goldman, and he helped me to start my business. So today we are standing here after 16 years together again. And I'm just going to come back and tell you more about me and myself and PSBC, Pakistan Sweden Business Council, that we have been starting last year. And many thanks to Pakistani Embassy, especially the ambassador who make this event happen, and together we can do it much more better. So I will leave my words to Harry Goldman so he can present himself, what he's doing in Sweden.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Harry Goldman. I'm the CEO of Swedish Jobs and Society, in Swedish Nyföretagarcentrum. You all say Nyföretagarcentrum in fluent Swedish now? Right, good. Right, that's the new enterprise center or enterprise agency, if you translate it. I've been working with this since 1985. I have a background as a lawyer before, and also at the Ministry of Trade and Industry before. But what we are doing is really to help people start up their own companies. And why is that? Is that needed? Yes, it's absolutely needed. I'm sure it's needed in your country, and it's more needed, I would say, in Sweden. And why do I say it's more needed in Sweden? Because our tradition is not like yours in doing business. We are used to, in Sweden, to have big industries. And people brought up during the latest years think this is just have come from heaven. They are just there. Or we had public sector quite going well during the years. When I was educated, nobody said to me, why don't you start a business? Nobody. Yes, we had business schools, and we have them still. But those business schools are more or less, at that time, more related to bigger industries, to relate to the problems that the Swedish industries had that were started in the beginning of last century. So if you see about the numbers, how are the numbers in new starting companies? Sweden is somewhere in the middle. It's not on the top. And it should be in the top. When we're talking about sport, we want to be in the top, of course. But when we're talking about enterprise, we are talking about the Swedish population is some in the middle. We have a population of 10 million inhabitants in Sweden. Every year, 0.6% of the Swedish population starts a company. 0.6. Imagine. So if you don't have any newcomers, we won't have any economic development. We can't rely on things we had done before. So is Sweden then a good country to be in and have a company in? Yes, fairly well. Most of things are functioning quite good. If you ask people in business, they will say, yes, taxes are high, and they are, extremely high. But still, companies are starting and companies are prospering. still. If you have, can you start anything? Yes, you can. Anything. And can you start without money? Yes, you can. The thing is, it can be hard. It can be hard if you don't have any knowledge, if you don't have any experience, if you don't have any contacts. And so it is everywhere. So normally, where you come from, you probably, when you started your businesses, you ask someone in your environment. Maybe your parents, maybe your relatives, maybe your friends. And probably you had some good examples around you. And people who could guide your way around. In Sweden, when we have a structure where most people are not entrepreneurs, it's harder. So in that respect, it's easier for you. But anyway, how can you develop a spirit of entrepreneurship? It comes from the environment. We know by research that when you start a company, it's crucial who you have around. In all environments where you have entrepreneurs, where you have business people, the more you have, the better it goes for the companies, because you have a culture. So for Swedish conditions, we have low bankruptcies, extremely low bankruptcies. You have the possibility to start a business, but you don't have the knowledge. And that's where the organization that I was one of the people in the beginning, in the 80s, beginning into the startup of the organization. In Britain, you had at that time, if you go back in the 70s, and many of you may recollect that in the 70s, Britain was in, let I say deep shit, economically. The pound was really low. You had strikes. You had very severe problems in some of the towns. What they did in Britain was something that was, however, quite brilliant in that time. That was starting the enterprise agency scheme. And some of you may have heard of that. That was a real good example how you can reshape and make economic development. In those times, you had many companies, established companies, who said, well, we have high employment. If we don't do anything, we will have problems. And we can't anymore employ those people as before, but maybe they can start up a company with our help, with the help of established industry and business. So they started the enterprise agency scheme. It was a tremendous success with about 200 enterprise agencies around Britain starting up, employing lots of people and starting up many, many companies. That was something that we at the time, in the 80s, also looked at. At the same time, you had Silicon Valley in the US, another example, where you had a shift from the East Coast in the US and the West Coast. As you may remember, the old companies, like IBM, for example, suddenly you had a company called Microsoft. Quick, entrepreneur-related. Everything happened in the West Coast in those companies. And that was single persons who started in the garages. Not with much money. They just started. what happened at that time was also a discussion about how can you promote entrepreneurship. At that time, you had a laureate in economy who got a Nobel Prize, Milton Friedman, who really struck on the entrepreneur. If you have entrepreneurs, you will have economic development. And all that we took on and started to build up an organization in Sweden. And the organization started in Sweden with the help of a big company, as it did in the UK. In this case, it was Volvo. And the chairman of Volvo, Per Gyllenhammar, said, if we as an old company, big company, could provide and help the local situation, it will also suit us. Because if we don't have people around that can help us with supply, we can't survive in the environment. So we are dependent on small companies, not only the bigger ones, for innovation, but also for simple services. So therefore we started up in village after village in Sweden, an organization where we got together the people around in business and banks and insurance companies and accountants and lawyers and asked them, can you help? Can you help people start up a company for free? Yes, you can always buy a consultancy. You can always buy a market plan. But if you do that, you have to have money. And people we are talking about, they don't have any money. But they may have brilliant ideas. And if you just give them your knowledge, sit down with them, talk about the business plan, with your experience, you will guide them further on. And that is an experience that we have had since '85. Every year now, we have about 20,000 people coming in for advice. Of those 20,000 people, and we are talking about 10 million of inhabitants here in Sweden totally, we are starting up between 7,000 to 10,000 companies a year. We have since 1985 been able to start up about over 200,000 companies. Every year about 15% of every new company started is started through the organization, where you get free advice, you get a mentor, you get tools helping you forward in your business, you get contacts, and that makes business grow. And we have, for us it is not of interest what kind of business you are starting. It could be anything. You don't have to be a star at the beginning. It's very hard to know who is the star in the beginning. That will show later on. Often the strategy is from governments, pick the winner. Yes, it's like to have a football team where you buy the star, and when the star is already bought, he will move away to another team. So what we are trying to do is build a culture. And from that culture, it will be that case that people are coming up and being in business and succeed. And that has already happened several times. So if you, as Pakistanis, are eager to start up companies in Sweden, that's not a problem. That's quite easy to do. And if you have contacts with Swedish people, it's even easier, because they know the environment and know how to do it locally and who to ask. And from that on, just come to Nyföretagarcentrum and we will help you on in the best way and hopefully this can be prosperous for us both. Thank you very much.
A question to you, Harry. What is your experience like? You have been in this branch for more than 25, 30 years. What is the special things in this environment in Stockholm and Sweden who make this region successful, like DNA of Stockholm or Sweden? Do you have any thoughts about it?
The Swedes are good to organize. I would say they are excellent in organizing. We were talking about having meetings and having it exactly on the spot on the clock, like the Germans. But we are quite good at organizing things, and could be a strength sometimes. You have institutions in Sweden that are functioning. You can rely on them. That's also a plus.
One thing I realized yesterday, that there is special things in Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden, is very unique compared to other countries in the world. And it is also related to the Swedish history. And it is that people over here, they are corrupted, non-corrupted. You can trust that people. You send an invoice, you get paid within 30 days. So I think the basement of them to make a trade or business is very important, that you trust people. And in this country, there is plenty of this kind of people.
Yeah. But things are shifting very swiftly. It's when I was brought up, nobody locked their doors.
But I feel
it's not that way anymore.
But still, there is, if you compare it to, from my viewpoint, I am telling just because, like you guys, you are over here, and you want to start a business. Of course, you are looking after a serious person. You are looking after people who are going to give you a justice advice or a good advice. So in that matter, there is a lot of several agencies. They're gonna show you the right path. So in this issue, you will get to the right connection. For example, when I met Harry from the beginning, we were like, me and my partner, we were thinking that, okay, we're gonna pay them a lot of money to get this advice. But it ended up with 0 crown. We didn't pay anything. And they just give us the best advice to start this business. So sometimes I think as an entrepreneur, you are waiting too much for the expertise. But if you have the right person who can give you, who has been in the branch for a long time, for example, in like Harry, so you will get the best best advice to start a business. So I feel that Sweden has this criteria to make a good business, even that we have a lot of high taxes. If you have a good experience how to calculate the business, there is no problem to pay the tax. But if you are calculating, if you are failed already from the beginning there, then you have a serious problem. Because here in Sweden, you will get many more years in prison if you make a problem, if you don't pay tax according to the law, compared to if you murder someone. So they have built up a welfare system is very based on that tax system. So we have to realize that if people want to start a business here, so we have to realize that there is a tax system, we have to follow it. Otherwise it's not possible to run in a long term. You can send any question if you have any thoughts or you want to share, just take the mic and just tell me, so I will send the mic. So my pleasure if you can send some questions so we can.
So, hi, my name is Asad. I have a question regarding, not many people are here and they're not going to stay here for long, so will you be able to provide any online services or advices to them if they contact you when they go back to Pakistan?
Our organization is not a chamber of commerce. We are not that. We are helping people start up their companies in Sweden. If you are interested in doing that and make contact with them, sure, they will answer. But it's easier if you have one person here in Sweden who will drive the company. Because yes, you can search for agents or whatever to do doing business here in Sweden. Yes, you can do that. But to be established here, and that is what our organization is for, really. But see what you can find, and we try to answer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harry Goldman. It was a brilliant presentation. Just a question. Say if somebody in Pakistan wants to have your advice and technical expertise in terms of, nuts and bolts, that they want to establish a company, how would you determine what kind of a fee you will charge? Because this is an important thing that people will be interested in knowing.
Well, we sit down with the person. That's the most important thing. The person behind the company. And we have hours really before coming to what we will do, determining and discussing about the person's ability to be an entrepreneur. Is it the right time? Could be a brilliant person, but is it the right time to start a company? Could be or could not be. Is the business idea suited to you as a person? Do you have any connections? Do you have any experience? We have to have discussions, eye to eye, and help people in their way forward. There are no one solution for all. You have to take it individually and take it from there, and you can make hundreds of obstacles during the way. But we say take one step at a time. And you will always have problems in business. They will always come. But take it when it comes, and we will solve the questions when it's there. So to connect with people with the knowledge, it could be for a treaty to get in some expert on some lawyer, or if it's a market plan, some people doing business in that specific market, just to talk with them. How should I do it? Who should I contact? What should I have on the shelves? Where should I be located? The place, locally. What's the best time to start up the company? Those discussions you have. Yes, we have an online business plan, which is good to have as a structure, because as I said, the Swedes likes to have business in order. So doing a business plan is a good idea, where you have market plans, you have financial plans, and so on. The banks like that, and that it's easier to get the financing. So all that we discuss, eye to eye. So doing have it on the net, yes. In some kind, and it will be much more in the future, because the new generation is much more eager to have consultation during the net. Today, if you are going to a doctor, even, many people go through the net and have a prescription and so on. But to have a feeling who you are doing business with is still crucial, and will be crucial for all time, even in the future. So you have to have an eye contact.
If you get the question that you wanted to brag about something, one thing from Sweden, what would be that? What brag about? Something you're like proud about from Sweden?
What should that be? What should that be? I'm not much for bragging, really. It's hard to say. Every country has its pluses and minuses. Sweden is a country that has been for many years quite sheltered, and we are now in another situation than before. And I don't say this is for bad. I think this is for good, really. But that means even that we have to do things to see that we will have the economic situation we have today, even in the future. Today we can brag about that, to have good standard of living, to have good schools, good education, good health care, nearly for everyone, nearly for everyone. That's not even the truth anymore. But I'm not that sure that that will be in the future. So I see pluses and minuses all the time.
Yeah, for you guys that you have been coming from Pakistan, just to increase your knowledge about Sweden, that the welfare system started in 1930 in Sweden, and it has been raised by social democrats, and they have been building this welfare system, and it's very equal. That every person in this country, they get equal services. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from. So in that cases, it is a very justice system. So that's, we are now, as a citizen of this country for a long time, we are seeing these changes are coming, because, for example, Ericsson, one of the biggest companies in this country, they are not going that good anymore compared to before. That was the company for like 15 years ago you could brag about, but not anymore. It's quite similar history to Nokia in Finland. So there is, each time when things like that happen, there's a lot of people who has this, like they have been living on, they have been working in Ericsson for 30 years, and they have this secureness. From that one, you could also get a lot of new entrepreneurs. So that's a benefit in this, when things like that happen. So in these cases, I would say, you're gonna get more people to work with when you feel that big companies are like unstable now. So you get more people maybe started to, because not that much people wanted to.
No, it's not really related like this. You will say that if you have a high employment, people start more companies. Not even so. If there are good times, people tend to buy services, and therefore also companies will start. Of well-educated people as well of unemployed. In our organization, when we are helping people, we are the biggest organization. What we do alone, other organizations do, included the state organization, included them as a bunch. We have unemployed. The number of unemployed we are helping is 20%. 80% are not unemployed, starting a business. And in times where we have had unemployment, it was maybe more people that knocked on our doors. But the case was not that, that everyone who was unemployed was suitable to start a business. If you understand what I mean. I wouldn't say that people who are unemployed are not suitable. The opposite, they are. But you have to have the culture, you have to have the will, you have to have the drive. And that's not connected always.
Then what do you think about these refugees? We have been taking about like 180,000 refugees from Syria. What is the figure, do you think, in the coming 5 years, that how many people from them are going to start a business in Sweden?
And if I could say anything that I'm proud of, I would say this I'm proud of. This is also a must for Sweden. Because what we get is people, and there are all kinds of people, people without education, people with education, and many of them are well educated and well off, and have had a company before, when they were back in their home countries, and have also in the family tradition the knowledge how to drive a company, which is useful to us. So this is crucial that we do much more in this respect. And we are pilots in Sweden, the organization Nyförtra Centrum are pilots in this, in making systems just for the newcome Swedes to start up businesses. And I would say it's much easier to help those people start up a company than other people, because they are used with the tradition of doing business. And this we can have a lot of use from. My parents are not born in Sweden. Your parents are not born in Sweden. If we see the population in the will of starting businesses, you will, if you ask people born outside Sweden, it's about double as high as normally Swedes. And as I said, this is needed for Sweden, because if we don't have enough companies coming in, it's like a river. It's bigger, bigger, and bigger, and then it goes out in the sea. If it's going to be smaller, 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 it won't come out in the sea. You have to see that we have more entrepreneurs with entrepreneurship, because that's the only way for us to have a future. It's hard to get a job, even in Sweden. It's not that easy just to go and knock at the door and say, I want to have a job. The public sector is not just hiring people like that. The private sector is not hiring people like that. So one of the ways to get a future as a person is starting your own company. So therefore this is needed, and especially if you don't have any contacts, if you don't have any finances, if you don't have any other thing, you can do what you can do. What I'm not proud of in the Swedish policies is, for instance, that you educate people to get other jobs and learn them to get other jobs instead to learning them to get on with their own businesses. And this is what I'm struggling for, to get more people of the newcomers into business and help them to start.
Any more questions? A short information. Yeah.
It's not a question, it's more of a comment. My name is Imran Meher. I am based in Bonn, Germany. And I worked for Fair Trade International, one of the world's leading sustainable NGOs. So while working there, I had been participating in different bio exhibitions in different parts of EU. So there I would meet with Pakistani producers, and they would always ask for me for fair trade certification. As compared to Pakistani producers, I would work always with Indian producers. So, and the Indian producers, they would always give this viewpoint that why, especially the products like in rice, basmati rice, why? Because you people like the Pakistani, they are producing one of the world's best basmati rice, but they are not being fair trade certified yet. So it was my hunch, and I would really feel that to work upon this. So unfortunately, at that point, it's a very long story. So long story in short, even though the fair trade minimum price and the premium prices were not announced for Pakistan, so I had to do lobbying. And the Pakistani producers, from their end, some of them, they would contact me and ask me, Imran, I'm losing my business. I need to have this certificate within 2 to 3 months. So the one thing I had to make sure and tell them, realize them that this is not going to work. The thing is, the foremost thing is that you have to fulfill fair trade standards and compliance. So the whole supply chain should be around fair trade. So other than that, you cannot make your products come to Europe into fair trade domain. So the thing, it was really like headache. So I really had to work upon that. It took like 2 good years working in a personal capacity. So thankfully, and I'm proudly saying that our farmer association from Gujranwala, Kamoki, Taj Food has been fair trade certified as basmati rice, and 4 more producers have been certified. So the thing is, in the end, I would say that it's a tremendous platform. I never saw this wonderful activity here, so that's why I came here. I mean, I was really feeling happy when I received email from Embassy of Pakistan that Mr. Imran, this is a nice opportunity and platform, and we are gathering only Pakistani producers under one roof. So this is a tremendous opportunity I must appreciate. And the thing is, the last comment I would like to make that we should also work upon training Pakistani businesses like traders and farmer cooperatives how on sustainable standards and compliance. Thank you.
Okay, the time is running, and just a short information about PSBC, Pakistan Sweden Business Council. We have been started last year. The vision is and intention is to stimulate business between the businessmen in Pakistan and businessmen in Sweden. So we have a corner over there. We are standing there. So if you have wanted to have more details about our organization, you are very welcome to have a dialogue with us. So be free to ask us any question about this new organization, and it is initiated by Embassy of Pakistan in Sweden for last year. So we are thankful to them and to people who are participating in that issue.